saying this is going to tarnish his fights with Garbrandt. It's going to tarnish. I mean, I think, and I got to tell you, I don't think he's a moneymaker for the UFC, so he's going to get completely thrown under the bus. They ain't moving no fight from Vegas to California for him.
Right,
you know, so I think he's got other issues to deal with, but it should
really
be
unfortunate.
interesting. I mean,
no, I know.
Really, I think it's really unfortunate because, again, I think the guy really, you know, I know he was a student of the game. I've talked to him. I've met him. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Time for a little shit talk. Excited to fight against crazy Alex Cowboy Oliveira, Brazilian martial artist, man. Shout out. Ooh. Make sure y'all bring cleaning supplies. It's gonna be a dirty one. It'll be nasty. Ooh wee.
You know, I think that there's no doubt that Gaethje can win that fight. Gaethje has, I think, more knockout power, in my opinion, with his hands than Edson Barboza does. He's a high-pressure fighter, and he's going to need that style if he wants to beat Edson Barboza. And, you know, just like Ian said before, I mean, I want to see Gaethje utilize his wrestling, even if he just uses it once in a while, just something to kind of give a different look to a fighter instead of being too predictable. But Gaethje is an absolute samurai. This is a guy who knows exactly who he is. He's a fucking warrior, and he will either, you know, knock you out or get knocked out. And he has no problem with either of those results. He's an absolute beast, and I love watching him fight, and it's going to be a great fight because of that. Now, with Edson Barboza, he has more weapons. I think this is one of those fights that most likely he doesn't have to worry about the takedown. And those are the kind of fights that Edson Barboza loses. When he gets taken down, when he has to fight on the ground off of his back, when he has to utilize a lot of energy to get back to his feet. I think Edson Barboza needs to do two things. Beat up the legs of Gaethje and beat up the body of Gaethje. If he does that, he can set up the head kick knockout. This is the benefit of going second, John. I get to go the other way. If I think it's a close fight, I'm going to go the other way with Edson Barboza and try to pick up some points. I'll go with a knockout in round 3.
So I had the lateral part of my orbital fractured, the orbital floor was fractured, the zygomatic arch on the side of my face, my cheek was caved, everything I'm talking about, and they had to pop that back out, and just some other things going on. Yeah, I had a team of 3 doctors, a ear, nose, and throat doctor, a ophthalmologist, and a plastic surgeon. And from the images they saw, they thought I was going to come in and just be a complete mess. They were freaking out. So when I got there, they just said how lucky I truly was, just because how bad the lateral part of the orbit was broken. They kept saying that bone, typically when it's that bad, can puncture the eye, pop the eye, they kept saying. And then since the orbital floor was broke, or just kind of, I guess, shattered, or just multiple fractures, they were saying there was really nothing holding my eye in place. It was just kind of floating there. So lucky it didn't come out. They'll see that, like the eye popped out. And then I had some other things, like the nerve being, compressed. The major muscle that controls your eye was impinged.
You had numbness, right?
Yeah. My left side of my face was numb, and then it's still, a lot of the feeling came back, but it's still like a big circle, still numb, which I don't know if it will come back, because it's been 13 months and it's still as numb in those areas as it was days leading after it. But And then with the muscle being impinged, they were even saying how bad that was impinged that they were surprised I could even move my eye,
Well,
and I didn't lose my eyesight. So it was just, they just kept telling me how lucky I was.
you got very lucky.
And at that point, I didn't feel lucky at all, but I was like, okay, I'll take their word for it.
How was it sparring after that? Like, how was it getting back to getting hit? Because, I mean, how'd that feel?
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough coming back to practice. I had to wait a long time, actually, just because I had bad vertigo, too, for a solid at least 2 months,
From that?
Wake up. Yeah, from that. I've never experienced that before. And you hear people talk about, they have vertigo and it comes and goes, and they've dealt with it their whole life or for years. And I'm like, that is a horrible thing to experience. And I was like, I don't wish that upon anyone. I don't see how people live, I've had vertigo for 5 years. I'm like, how do you function? But I guess you just kind of find a way.
Well, how did it affect you, Josh? Sorry to interrupt you, but what happened? You'd wake up dizzy, and what was it about the injury that made that happen? Did they tell you?
I think it was just like I'm not sure, something to do with the brain, maybe. I don't know, but I would wake up in the morning, usually when I sit up and the room's spinning, and it felt like the ground's moving, and I just feel sick, like nauseous. And that was like that for quite some time. But after that started to go away, I didn't get back into any live goes. I started lifting weights, doing like light stuff on the bike, maybe hitting mitts light, but not getting any, punches or anything thrown at me, just because I wanted the bones to heal 100%. And most doctors, you break something, they say 6 to 8 weeks, and you're good to go. I took a little longer than that.
Do you just prepare for the best Josh Emmett you've ever seen? Is that how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not looking at his last fights as to who he is. I hope I get the best one that comes in there. I hope I get a guy that is not afraid to fight after a knockout like that, and he's not really worried about it. He comes in the best shape of his life, and he's ready to fight, because those are the guys that I like to compete against and fight.
I think that Conor is an egomaniac, and I don't mean that in a negative way, even though that's probably how it sounds, but I mean it that he almost like needs something like fighting to make him feel like bigger than life. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like, even though everyone looks at him as bigger than life, I just know, like, I can see a fighter, and I know a fighter when I see one, and Conor McGregor is a fighter, and I just don't think that he's done. I don't think that his spirit is gonna flourish until like he really feels like he's done what he set out to do. And that might sound crazy, because I know he's done a tremendous amount, but I still don't think it's enough. I think he's gonna want to fight at least a couple more times. Sure, he has enough money. Sure, he's famous enough. Sure, he's got his whiskey. He's got everything that a normal person would be like, dude, why would you ever work another day in your life? Why would you ever get punched in the face again? He didn't start getting punched in the face believing that he was going to make I mean, that's not why you start doing this. You know what I mean? Like, I guarantee you saw him on those small cars back when nobody knew who he was. And the reason that he fought is still the same reason why I believe he will come back to fighting again, at least once or twice. I just can't bring myself to believe that his sole motivation to get back into fighting is money. Because if that were the case, I don't think that he ever would have fought Khabib Nurmagomedov. Anyways, he has plenty of money. He's like very successful. Like, why would he come back and fight arguably the toughest man on the planet?
Especially for him.
Because it's Conor McGregor, and he has an ego in a way that makes his fighting career just that much more special. Man, because it's sincere.
Later that same evening.
Oh my God! Oh my God!